Stop acting obsolete, Donna. It's just cosmetic rust. Brent Halverson said it at 5:40 a.m., leaning so close she could smell mint gum over stale coffee, his clean, white hard hat almost touching the scratched brim of hers. He did not lower his voice. To Donna he seemed to want the scaffold crew, the bay operators, and the two planners standing by the permit board to hear him flatten 19 years of field judgment into a personality flaw. 12 hours later, a catwalk section on Unit 3 would fall 15 feet into a live process lane, shut down a $220 million specialty chemicals line, and send 3 people to trauma care. In that minute, though, none of that had happened yet. Only the insult had landed, and it landed with the force of hierarchy. A manager using public humiliation as a control tool when procedure got in his way. Turnaround Monday always felt like a pressure vessel at relief set point. Floodlights still burned against the dawn haze. Forklifts idled in queued lanes. And every radio channel carried the same clipped urgency. Permits, clearances, hot work windows, line breaks, startup dependencies. Unit 3 sat on the east side of the site above Solvent Recovery Bay C, a stacked maze of steel platforms, vapor headers, heat-traced lines, and graded walkways that looked solid until chemistry did what chemistry always did. Chloride-rich vapor drifted where insulation jackets were imperfect. Condensate gathered in seams, and painted carbon steel lost thickness one damp season at a time. On paper, the catwalk above Bay C was simple access infrastructure. In reality, it was a structural member with a load path, fatigue history, and a minimum remaining wall below which no speech from management could carry weight. Donna Barrett stood with her tablet open and her gauge pouch clipped at her hip, thumb still resting on the draft red tag order she had prepared 7 minutes earlier. She had not raised her voice. She had not dramatized what she found. She had done exactly what mechanical integrity required. Inspect, measure, verify, document, classify, hold. Her name was Donna Barrett. She was a senior mechanical integrity technician with API 579, fitness for service training, 19 years split between refinery and chemical assets, and a salary of $142,000 because she was paid for one non-negotiable function, catching failures while they were still numbers instead of sirens. She ran thickness routes, managed corrosion loops, and signed safe-for-load permits for elevated access structures that other departments treated like furniture. She knew what operators meant when they said, "It looked fine yesterday." She also knew that steel did not care about yesterday. Brent straightened and tapped her tablet with one finger. "You're holding a turnaround over paint bubbles." Donna kept her eyes on him. "It is not paint. UT at 3 points. On the support angle read 2.7 millimeters. Original thickness was 8.0. Design minimum for that span is 5.0. One gusset weld has a toe crack you can see without magnification." He gave a short laugh, the kind that made nearby people look away. "You gave me decimals, I gave you a schedule. We are moving totes across that catwalk this morning." She answered in the same calm tone she used in incident interviews. "Then you are moving dynamic load over a member that has lost over 40% section thickness. 40%, 50%, whatever percent." He flicked his hand toward the bay. "It's steel, not glass." The planner nearest the board shifted his weight and pretended to read an old permit. A scaffold lead, checked his gloves twice. Nobody interrupted. Public power confrontations in plants followed familiar physics of their own. The louder voice set temporary reality, and everybody hoped the temporary part came quickly. Donna's jaw tightened once and released. She had trained younger techs through this exact moment for years. When the data were clear and the person above you in the org chart chose denial as strategy. I'm issuing a structural red tag and an integrity hold. Brent's expression went hard. No, you're not. You are slowing this unit because you're risk-averse and outdated. We are behind on the customer window. We do not have 2 days for your perfectionism. She turned her tablet so he could see the annotated photos. Blistered coating, undercut corrosion at the angle root, ultrasonic readings stamped with time and point Ds. This is not perfectionism. This is minimum thickness for load-bearing steel. He stepped closer again, voice rising half a notch. Then maybe you need to retire if you can't tell cosmetic rust from structural danger? That line did more damage than he intended, because to Donna it sounded engineered for audience effect. Retire in front of a turnaround crew meant obsolete, expensive, replaceable. Donna felt the old heat flash behind her ribs. Not fear and not shame exactly, but the sharp recognition that disrespect was being deployed as a production tool. She had seen it in pipeline digs, in coker outages, in marine transfer racks. Call the cautious person lazy. Call the expert dramatic. Convert technical refusal into a character defect and clear the path for the shortcut. She did not take the bait. She looked past Brent toward the catwalk section over Bay C. Morning humidity made the grating dark. A rust stain ran under one stanchion where trapped moisture had worked beneath coating for years. She looked at the marked-up member ID on her tablet. Then she looked back at Brent. The day split cleanly in her head into 2 tracks: procedure or ego. At 5:52 a.m., she keyed her radio. Control MI Tech Barrett. I am placing a temporary integrity hold on elevated access structure C3CW17 pending structural review. Repeat, hold on C3CW17. Do not route load across span. A beat of static, then Control replied, copy temporary hold on C3CW17, logging. Brent snapped, disregard that. Control, this is Ops Manager Halverson. Hold under review. Stand by for risk acceptance. Control did what control rooms often did in authority collisions. They acknowledged both and waited for paper. Copy, standing by. Donna opened the work order screen and selected classification, structural urgent. She attached 3 UT captures, 1 weld photo, and her field note. Remaining wall below design minimum. Visible crack initiation at gusset toe. Dynamic loading prohibited. Her finger hovered over submit for 1 breath, then pressed. Digital systems did not feel moral urgency, but they recorded sequence, and sequence mattered when memory got edited later. Brent watched the upload bar complete and gave a thin smile. You understand you just made yourself part of the problem. No, she said. I documented the problem. He turned to the planners. Reroute logistics to upper lane as planned. We will handle this with temporary controls. Then back to her. You can either support operations or get out of the way. The phrase temporary controls had become a linguistic solvent in modern plants. Sometimes it meant competent interim barriers with engineering review. Sometimes it meant a managerial wish dressed as process language. Donna knew which version this was because no engineer of record had assessed the span, no shoring had been installed, and no load restriction had been recalculated from current section properties. To Donna, he seemed determined to preserve throughput through an audit window. He had quarter-end pressure in his eyes and a bonus structure in his posture. The sun edged above the tank farm and turned the vapor plumes pale gold. Shift handover traffic thickened. By 6:05 a.m., 3 contract drivers were waiting with 900-kilogram solvent totes strapped on dollies near the staging line. One operator asked quietly, "Donna, are we clear on upper catwalk or no?" She answered him directly. "No load movement over C3CW17 until engineering review. Use lower route or hold." Brent cut in before the operator could respond. "Use upper route. We are not clogging forklift lanes for this." The operator looked between them and said nothing. That silence was another part of the insult shock, one people outside plants underestimated. Humiliation did not end with the words. It spread into the crew's decision space, teaching everyone which truth was safe to repeat aloud. Donna stepped away from the board and called Integrity Coordinator Malik Sethi on direct line. "Malik, I need you to pull W033-7841 now. Structural urgent, not cosmetic. UT reads 2.7 on the support angle, design minimum 5.0. Visible toe crack at gusset on C3CW17. Ops is pressing movement." Malik's voice came sharp and awake. "You submitted photos? 3 UT shots and 1 crack image. Time-stamped. Good. Keep your notes clean. I'm coming across from admin in 10. She ended the call and exhaled once. Around her, the plant kept moving with indifferent momentum. Pumps humming, steam tracing ticking, backup alarms pulsing from a loader in Bay B. Industrial sites rewarded rhythm, and rhythm punished interruption. Brent was counting on that. If he could frame her as the lone friction point, the machine would roll over the warning and call it practicality. At 6:12 a.m., Brent passed her again on the grating and dropped his voice just enough to make it personal. "You've had your say. Don't grandstand." She met his gaze without stepping back. "I am not grandstanding. I am preventing structural failure." He gave a dismissive shrug and walked toward operations control with his radio up. Donna watched him go, then reopened her tablet and duplicated her field note into her personal compliance log, including exact words used and exact times observed. She had learned that paper trails were not bureaucratic clutter. They were survival equipment. By 6:20 a.m., with dawn fully on the unit and the first tote team assembling near Bay C, the emotional temperature had settled into a colder form of dread. The insult had done its work on the surface, but underneath it had clarified the underlying contest with unusual precision. Brent believed authority could reclassify risk by declaration. Donna knew remaining wall thickness could not be argued upward. In plants, that was the oldest conflict there was. Schedule pressure versus metallurgy, hierarchy versus load path, ego versus math. Only one side was bound to reality. A forklift horn echoed from Bay B, then faded under the constant pump noise, and Donna walked toward C3CW17 with her tablet still open to the red tag record, forcing herself into the narrow discipline she trusted most. One observation, one measurement, one verified mechanism at a time. The catwalk looked ordinary from 10 meters away, grading wet with dawn humidity, handrail straight, paint only a little blistered where steam plumes drifted across it. Up close, the story changed. Rust had lifted the coating from below in crescent-shaped bubbles that followed the support angle line, and every bubble sat where condensate would pool against a horizontal lip. She crouched near the stanchion, scraped one blister with a gloved thumb, and the paint shell cracked like eggshell over dark scale. The steel beneath was not orange surface staining. It was layered loss with flake edges and pit mouths. She pressed the ultrasonic probe onto cleaned metal at point A1, watched the cuplant gel bead in the rough texture, and waited for the reading to settle. 2.8 millimeters. She moved 20 centimeters to A2, 2.6 millimeters. She moved again to A3 near the gusset toe, where rust streaking ran like a finger mark under the weld. 2.5 millimeters. Then a jumpy return. Then 2.4 millimeters, after she reseated the transducer. She logged each point with a photo and depth map overlay, then ran the calibration check against her 5.0 millimeter reference block clipped to her belt. The gauge read 5.01. Instrument drift was not the explanation. The member was thinning in the worst place possible, near a stress concentrator, under cyclic foot traffic, beside a weld that already showed crack initiation. She stood and looked down through the grating into the live process lane below, solvent recovery bay. C was active, not in startup chaos but in steady-state rhythm. 2 operators in face shields were checking valve positions near pump C14, and a maintenance cart rolled past cable trays that fed the bay lighting and instrument loops. If the span failed, debris would not fall onto empty concrete. It would fall into people, utilities, and flammable service. That was why structure permits existed. Donna keyed her radio. Control M.I. Barrett. Updating hold detail on C3CW17. Confirm personnel keep clear from beneath Bay Lane until further notice. Control answered, copy update request. We have routine traffic in lane for now. Need formal boundary from OPA. Donna gave the member ID again, slow and clear. Boundary should be immediate. I'm hearing hollow response on impact tap and confirming sub-minimum wall at multiple points. Static then. Logged. She hated that word in moments like this. Logged meant recorded, not necessarily acted on. At 6:24 a.m., Malik Sethi came up the stair tower with a hard case in one hand and a yellow evidence envelope in the other, breath visible in short bursts in the cool, damp air. He did not waste language. Show me your worst points. Donna handed him the tablet. He scrolled once, jaw tightening at the numbers, then knelt by the gusset with his own flashlight, angling the beam almost parallel to the weld, so surface discontinuities cast shadows. The toe crack, barely obvious in flat light, opened into a thin black line under the raked beam. Length? He asked. 32 millimeters visible edge to edge, branching at the lower end, Donna said. Malik pulled a flexible scale from his pocket, aligned it with the crack, and nodded. 34 now if we include the branch. He took 2 photos with a timestamp app and dictated into his recorder. C3, CW17 gusset toe crack, confirmed. Associated section loss at support angle with UT lows in 2.4 to 2.8 range. Original 8.0. Design minimum 5.0. He looked up at Donna. Did anybody already route load? Not yet, she said. First tote team is staged. He opened his case and took out dye-penetrant cleaner, red penetrant, and developer spray. I want surface confirmation for a propagation path, he said. Donna cleaned a 10-centimeter strip along the weld toe, sprayed penetrant, waited the dwell time, wiped, then dusted developer. Within seconds, the white film bled red at the same line and at two short transverse marks she had not seen with the naked eye. One was tiny, maybe 6 millimeters, but it sat exactly where bending stress would peak when the span flexed at mid-load. Malik swore under his breath, mild and controlled, the way engineers did when a model and reality aligned in the worst direction. "That is active cracking, not old scar," he said. "If this sees dynamic wheel load, it will walk." Donna finished photographing the developer indications and uploaded them to the work order. She attached a short note. "Crack network confirmed by PT test. Dynamic load prohibition remains." The first tote crew arrived at the far end of the upper lane with an empty dolly to test routing clearance, one lead operator, and two contractors in blue coveralls. The lead operator, Chavez, raised a hand toward Donna and Malik. "We have instruction to verify path width only. No tote yet. You want us off?" Donna answered immediately. "Yes. Keep all wheeled loads off this span." Chavez hesitated, glancing toward operations control windows above the unit. "We got pushed to keep prep moving." Malik stepped beside her and spoke with the flat authority of someone who knew his statement would be read later. "Integrity hold is active. This is not advisory. Suspend movement." Chavez nodded once and backed the dolly away without argument. One contractor exhaled hard. Relief, more than frustration. The other kept staring at the member, then at the rust flakes on the grating around Donna's boots, as if the damage only became real when someone named it. Donna moved to the underside access point, where a removable grating panel let inspectors view the support angle route. She clipped her harness, set a knee on the frame, and leaned down with a mirror and borescope light. Beneath the painted top flange, trapped moisture had carved a long crescent of loss where oxygen concentration cells did their slow work in stagnant pockets. Corrosion under deposits almost always looked worse underneath than on top, and this was no exception. She measured pit depth with a needle gauge through the access gap. 3.1 millimeters deep in one cavity from original surface elevation, leaving less than 5 millimeters net in that local zone, even before accounting for general thinning. She scraped a small-scale sample into Malik's yellow envelope, labeled it with member ID, date, and exact point location, and sealed it. Physical evidence, clean chain. No debate later about what had existed before repairs or collapse. When she tapped the member lightly with a small ball-peen hammer, the sound was dull and short, not the clear ring of healthy section. She tapped 6 inches away and got the same dead tone. She tapped near a cleaner painted area and heard a brighter response. Localized damage, not uniform weathering. By 6:37 a.m., low sun had warmed the upper rail enough to pull a faint chemical smell from old paint, while chloride vapor still drifted from Bay Sea vents in intermittent gusts. And Donna watched condensed droplets form on the underside lip of the angle exactly where corrosion was most advanced. Moisture source was no longer theoretical. She traced the path with her light. Condensate from an adjacent uninsulated elbow ran along the pipe support, dripped onto the angle root, and sat there because the drain path was blocked with coating debris. She photographed the drip cycle with a short 10-second video and attached it to the integrity note. Chloride wet-dry cycling at structural contact point, she dictated. Ongoing active driver. Malik added, "This should have been in the corrosion loop years ago." Donna answered, "It was flagged as watch condition in 2022, but no reroute installed." That detail mattered for mechanism, not blame. Metal loss needed environment, time, and neglect. All three were present. Her radio crackled again. Control said, "MI Barrett, Ops requests quantified temporary load limit if span kept in service for pedestrian traffic only." Donna gave the answer that standards required, not the compromise people hoped for. No temporary load limit without structural engineer calculation and shoring design. Current condition is no wheeled load, no tote transfer, and personnel exclusion below affected segment. Control paused long enough for Donna to picture someone in the room, covering the microphone while a manager argued. Then came, "Received." Malik looked at her and said quietly, "They're trying to turn a stop order into a speed bump." Donna did not smile. "Then they can read the measurements." At 6:44 a.m., she ran one more UT grid, denser this time, to remove any claim that she had sampled selectively. 12 points across the suspect angle and gusset-adjacent web gave a range from 2.4 to 3.3 millimeters, with the only readings above 4.0 millimeters at the far end, away from the drip path. She overlaid the values onto a simple contour map in the tablet app, so non-technical reviewers could see the thinning valley centered under the crack. Data presentation was part of hazard control. If the person in charge could not understand the geometry, they treated warning as opinion. She dictated a plain language summary under the map. More than 40% section loss at critical zone. Crack present at welded connection. Expected behavior under dynamic rolling load. Localized flex. Crack growth. Sudden tear along reduced section. She read it back once and removed one adjective to keep it clinical. Precision survived hearings better than emotion. A maintenance electrician named Priya came up from the lower lane and pointed at a nearby conduit support clamp, vibrating against rail as pumps cycled. "You hearing that buzz?" she asked. Donna listened. A low-frequency chatter rose and fell every few seconds, barely perceptible unless you stood with a boot on the grating. She placed 2 fingers against the handrail and felt a faint tremor synchronized with pump harmonics from C14. Not enough to fail healthy steel, but enough to add fatigue cycles in damaged steel. She logged it as contributory vibration source and asked Priya to route cable work clear of the bay lane until boundaries were set. Priya said, "Copy. I'll pull my crew to the west rack. External contact, immediate outcome." Donna appreciated that kind of professionalism. No theatrics, just action. At 6:51 a.m., Malik called Central Engineering on speaker, so both of them were on record. Structural engineer Helena Ruiz picked up on second ring. Malik gave the condition in compressed form, then asked for emergency review and shoring recommendation. Helena did not hedge. "Based on your numbers, that member is below allowable without reanalysis. Keep load off and clear below. I'll issue a written hold advisory in 15 minutes. Donna requested one addition. Please include explicit prohibition of rolling concentrated load, not just total mass. Helena said, "Agreed. Wheel load creates local dynamic amplification. I'll write that sentence exactly." Donna thanked her, and Malik ended the call. That solved one recurring failure mode in plants: verbal warnings getting diluted in transit. Written engineering language would pin the mechanism in place. Then Donna heard a metallic tick from the gusset area, a tiny sound like cooling pipe, even though nothing there should have been thermally cycling. She leaned in again with the flashlight and saw a fresh line in the developer film extending a few millimeters beyond the earlier mark. It was not dramatic. It was worse than dramatic. It meant the crack tip was alive even under background vibration and normal footfall. She photographed the extension, added the new length measurement, and said to Malik, very calm, "Propagation confirmed at rest condition." Malik stared at the line for 2 full seconds, then nodded. "Technical alarm is now severe. We are past discretionary language." Donna keyed her radio one more time, each word separated so transcription software would not miss a syllable. Control MI Barrett, escalating C3 CW172, immediate structural hazard. Crack growth observed during static period. Repeat. Crack growth observed without applied transfer load. Clear all personnel from below. Affected span now. This time Control answered faster. Copy immediate hazard escalation. Initiating lane clear request. Donna watched operators in the lower bay look up, then start moving equipment carts out from beneath the catwalk. It was only a partial clear, not a full barricade, but it was movement in the right direction, finally aligned with the measurements instead of the schedule board. She closed her tablet cover with both hands and looked at the damaged member again. Not as rust, not as paperwork, but as a structure already announcing its failure mode in plain mechanical language to anyone willing to listen. She heard boots on grating behind her, a brisk heel strike that was too clean for operations and too impatient for maintenance. And when she turned, Brent was already lifting his radio away from his mouth with the expression of a man who had decided the argument ended when he said it did. "What did you just put on channel 1?" he asked. Donna kept her voice level. "Immediate structural hazard escalation on C3CW17. Crack growth at static condition. I requested a personnel clear below the span." He glanced past her at the developer-stained weld and then at Malik's case, and his lip curled with open contempt. "You two are painting red dye on old steel to justify shutting down movement." Malik answered first. "Penetrant only made the crack visible. It didn't create it." Brent ignored him and stepped into Donna's space. "Withdraw the escalation, right now." She did not move. She reopened her tablet, angled it so he could read the contour map, and spoke in the cadence she used when teaching new hires who mistook corrosion for cosmetics. The support angle started at 8.0 millimeters. Design minimum for this span is 5.0. We measured 2.4 to 3.3 in the critical zone. There is a toe crack at the gusset. The crack extended while unloaded. Dynamic wheel loading will increase flex amplitude, propagate the crack, and tear the reduced section. Brent gave a hard, humorless laugh. "You always do this. Big words, worst-case fantasy, total paralysis." "It is not a fantasy," she said. "It is a mechanism." He spread both hands toward the bay as if presenting a stage. "Mechanism or not, this unit ships product today. We have a customer team on site tomorrow. I am not explaining to corporate that we missed target because you got nervous about rust." Donna tapped the member ID line in her log. "This is not about nerves. This is minimum remaining wall and active crack growth." His jaw tightened. "I am giving you a direct instruction. Remove the hold language, classify as monitor and maintain, and clear controlled transfer, one tote at a time." She looked at the tablet, then at him, and the same clarity that had hit her at dawn settled deeper. "No." The single syllable landed louder than the pump noise. Brent blinked once, as if he expected a longer sentence he could interrupt. "No?" "No. I will not clear load across compromised structure. He lowered his voice, which made it more dangerous, not less. You are not the operations manager. And you are not exempt from material limits. Malik shifted beside her, ready to intervene, but Donna continued, still measured. Listen carefully. Rolling a 900-kilogram tote over mid-span adds dynamic amplification above static weight. That means the member sees spike stress, not just nominal load. At the cracked weld toe, stress intensity rises. Crack length increases, effective section drops. Then the angle tears along the corroded root. That is the sequence. Brent stared at her for a long second. You rehearsed that? I've investigated that. He pointed toward the stairwell. Then investigate from the office after we move product. Donna keyed her radio again before he could grab her wrist. Control, M.I. Barrett. Confirm integrity hold remains active on C3CW17. No wheeled loads, no personnel below affected span until structural engineer signs release. Control came back cautious. M.I. Barrett, Ops requests confirmation that this is your final recommendation. It is, she said. Final. Brent spoke directly over her transmission. Control, Ops Manager Halverson. Recommendation noted. Operations decision pending risk acceptance. That phrase again, the soft paperwork wrapper around a hard violation. By 7 a.m., the sky had gone from steel blue to pale white above the pipe racks, and shift tempo had accelerated as if the sun itself imposed deadlines. Donna could feel the vibration from C14 through the soles of her boots. She stepped to the rail and looked down to verify the lower lane was actually clearing. 2 operators had moved a tool cart out, but a contractor pair was still staging hose reels beneath the suspect span. She pointed. Lane is not clear. Malik keyed his handset to their crew channel. Bay C contractors, move hose reels to west side now. This is an exclusion boundary. One contractor waved acknowledgement and started rolling the reels away. Small compliance, but real. Brent made a slicing motion with his hand. Enough theater, we are done here. He pulled out his phone and spoke as he walked 3 paces aside, voice still audible. Get me planning and HR at Unit 3 now. Also send someone with temporary sign-off authority. Donna watched him, then looked back at the cracked line bleeding faint red through white developer. She scraped a tiny sample of the developer film into a vial, labeled it with time and location, and sealed it. If the record got challenged later, she wanted no ambiguity. Malik murmured, He's going for administrative override. She nodded. Then we stay technical. Her phone buzzed with a secure message from Helena Ruiz in Central Engineering. Emergency hold advisory attached. She opened it and read aloud the critical line, so Malik heard every word. Prohibit rolling concentrated loads across C3CW17 pending shoring, repair, and reinspection. No occupancy below affected span. She forwarded it to Control, copied integrity distribution, and saved the send receipt. Brent returned before she finished, face set. You sent engineering around me? Engineering owns structural criteria, she said. Operations owns execution, not failure thresholds. He jabbed a finger toward her chest badge. You're turning a maintenance note into a shutdown event. She answered without flinching. You turned a shutdown event into a maintenance note when you tried to call this Cosmetic. His expression flashed from anger to something colder, a managerial calculation. Last chance. Retract the hold. Donna spoke in the same formal tone she used under oath. My name is Donna Barrett. I am Senior Mechanical Integrity Technician for Unit 3 Assets. I cannot and will not certify this structure for transfer load. If operations proceeds, operations does so against written integrity and engineering hold. For the first time, Brent looked less like he was arguing and more like he was assembling a case. Good. Keep that statement. He turned to Malik. You can go back to your department. She is done on this deck. Malik did not move. I'm staying until the boundary is enforced. Brent gave him a tight smile. Then you can explain to your director why my unit is stalled. Malik met his stare. Gladly. Donna felt the familiar mix of adrenaline and focus, not panic, not bravado, just the narrow state where consequences were heavy and choices were simple. She snapped 3 wide-angle photos showing the crack-marked gusset, the member ID stencil, and the active bay below. Documentation, context, chain. Brent's radio squawked. Ops, this is logistics. First tote team staged upper approach, awaiting go. He answered instantly. Stand by. Then, turning back to Donna, he said, You have made your point. Now I'm making mine. 2 people came up the stair tower together. Lena from HR with a tablet folio, and Rick Donnelly from planning, younger, capable, eager to avoid eye contact. Rick wore a spotless orange vest and carried a clipboard already loaded with permit forms. Brent addressed them loudly enough for nearby crews. For record, MI Tech refuses operational directive critical to turnaround schedule. Lena's face tightened. Brent, we should move this to conference space. No, he said. We document at point of conflict. Donna could feel eyes turning toward them from the catwalk intersections, from ladder landings, from the control room windows above. Public pressure was the tool again. Lena looked at Donna with practiced neutrality. Can you state your position? Donna did not rush. Structure C3CW17 is below design minimum thickness with active gusset toe crack growth. I issued hold per procedure. Engineering advisory confirms no rolling concentrated loads and no occupancy below span. I cannot authorize transfer. Lena nodded slowly and typed. Brent cut in. State that you are refusing a direct management instruction. Donna held his gaze. I am refusing an unsafe instruction. He smiled without warmth. There it is. The next 10 minutes stretched with procedural language that pretended to be administrative and felt like a trial. Brent cited turnaround criticality, contractual exposure, and non-cooperative behavior. Donna cited section loss data, crack propagation evidence, and required controls under integrity policy. Lena asked for timestamps, attachments, and witnesses. Malik provided his own confirmations and PT photos. Rick stayed silent, staring at his clipboard edges as if they contained escape routes. At 7:18 a.m., Brent ended the exchange with the sentence he had been building toward since dawn. Donna Barrett, effective immediately, your Unit 3 site access is suspended pending insubordination review. Turn over your badge. The words hit like a dropped wrench on plate steel, clean, unmistakable, and designed to echo. Lena lifted one hand. Brent, suspension protocol usually routes through labor relations first. It is routed through me on active turnaround, he said. Donna felt heat rise in her throat, then settle. She unclipped her badge lanyard slowly, not to delay, but to keep her hands steady. She held the badge for one breath. 19 years compressed into a rectangle of plastic, then placed it in Lena's open palm. Lena looked stricken. Donna, you may submit a formal response immediately. I will, Donna said. Brent turned to Rick and finally deployed the replacement. Donnelly, you are temporary sign-off authority for this movement package. Update permit path and mark risk accepted under operations. Rick looked up, startled. I'm a planner. I'm not structural, am I? You are delegated for this shift, Brent said. Do your job. Rick swallowed. I haven't reviewed the UT dataset. Brent stepped closer. You need one line. Transfer permitted with spotter and reduced speed. Write it. Donna spoke to Rick, not Brent. If you sign, your name ties to the load decision. Read the engineering hold first. Brent snapped. She is off task. Do not take direction from suspended personnel. Malik stepped half a pace forward. She's still right. Brent rounded on him. You want to join her? Malik spread his hands. I'm already on record. A crane horn sounded from the west rack, long and low, then fell away. The plant kept moving around them, indifferent and relentless. Brent pointed toward the stairwell for Donna. Escort off deck. Lena spoke gently, almost apologetic. Donna, I need you to come with me to admin. Donna nodded once. She lifted her personal phone and captured one last time-stamped photo of the member and the boundary chalk marks. Then she read her final message into Channel 1 with calm precision. Control, this is Donna Barrett, off badge, as of 7/22. Final technical warning. C3CW17 remains structurally unfit for wheeled load. Clear personnel below span. Logging out. Control answered after a pause that felt longer than it was. Copy final warning, Donna. Logged. Brent took Rick by the elbow and angled him toward the permit board. Now we are behind. As Lena guided Donna toward the stair tower, Donna looked back once. Rick stood at the clipboard with pen poised but unmoving, eyes flicking between Brent's face and the red-stained crack line on the gusset. The replacement had been installed. The mechanism had not changed. Physics had simply lost its microphone. Rick stood at the clipboard with the pen hovering, and Brent's hand stayed on his elbow until the tip touched paper. Donna saw the stroke from the top stair as Lena guided her down, a fast signature line where a structural decision should have required calculations, stamps, and a licensed review. Brent did not look at the crack again. He looked at the logistics lane, at his watch, at movement. Above the pump hum, Donna heard him key the radio. Control Unit 3 Ops. Temporary risk acceptance approved for upper transfer path with reduced speed and spotter. Resume tote movement. The words rode out over Channel 1 with the same calm tone used for routine valve checks, and that made them more dangerous than shouting. Lena kept one hand at Donna's sleeve, not forceful, more procedural than physical. I need you in admin for statement intake, she said quietly. Donna did not resist. You heard the engineering advisory. I did. Then stop this. Lena swallowed. I don't control operations authority. Donna gave a short nod that held no agreement. Physics does. They reached the lower platform and crossed the graded bridge toward the badge checkpoint. The chloride smell grew sharper near the bay vent stack, a wet metallic bite under solvent trace. Two contractors rolled hose reels away from the exclusion chalk while glancing up at C3CW17, then at a supervisor who waved them toward the west rack, like clearing a stage before a performance nobody wanted to watch. At the checkpoint turnstile, security tech Ramon held out a tray for Donna's plant radio. She unclipped it and set it down beside a spare gas monitor, then handed over her area keys. Ramon kept his face neutral and spoke softly. I'm sorry, Donna. She answered in the same register. Log that I objected to transfer under active structural hold. He tapped his screen and met her eyes once. Logged at 7:26. That small line in a digital access log mattered. She knew it. Brent knew it too, which was why he had moved fast enough to bury sequence under activity. Admin trailers sat on the south edge of Unit 3 behind chain link and concrete barriers. Inside, fluorescent lights washed every face flat. Lena opened a form on her tablet and started with policy language. Date, time, supervisor, alleged insubordination. Donna interrupted only to insist on precise terms. Unsafe instruction refused, integrity hold cited, engineering advisory issued. Include member ID exactly. Lena typed each phrase, pausing when Donna spelled out C3CW17, then asked, "Do you have supporting files off network?" Donna held up her personal phone. Photos are mirrored to compliance archive with timestamps. Malik has independent captures. Lena's brows knit. You expected this? Donna looked through the trailer window toward steel and steam in the distance. I expected pressure. I documented mechanism. By 8:03 a.m., Donna had signed her statement and received a temporary suspension notice. The language was clinical and bloodless. Pending review. Access restricted. Contact labor relations. She folded it once and slipped it into her notebook beside printouts of minimum thickness criteria she carried for training days. Outside, morning had gone bright and hard. Turnaround traffic intensified. Backing trucks toward staging pads. Forklifts weaving around barricades. Radios layered 3 channels deep. She could not enter Unit 3 now, but she could stand at the perimeter fence where Bay C Catwalk was visible between column lines and monitor stacks. At 8:17 a.m., her phone buzzed with a secure text from Malik. He overrode full exclusion. Spotter control only. Rick signed. I objected on record. Donna typed back. Copy. Keep sending timestamps. Any movement on upper lane? 3 dots appeared then. Empty dolly test at 8:22. Minor chatter midspan. Brent called it normal deck noise. Donna read the message twice, jaw tight. Chatter under no load had already been present from pump harmonics. A wheeled test adding dynamic impulse should have been a stop trigger, not a reassurance line. She called control desk direct. The operator who answered identified himself as Pierce, a shift controller she trusted to at least log exact language. Pierce, this is Donna Barrett, off badge. I am making a formal external warning call. Any observed chatter or deflection at C3CW17 under movement is an immediate cease condition. Clear below span personnel now. Pierce lowered his voice, likely turned away from others. I hear you. Ops disposition remains proceed under acceptance. Then log this word for word. Continued transfer constitutes operation against integrity and engineering advisories. Pause. Keyboard clicks. Logged at 8:24. Thank you. She ended the call and stayed by the fence, boots planted in gravel, watching a section of steel that looked deceptively ordinary at distance. The catwalk rail caught sunlight. From here, the crack was invisible. That was part of the trap. Most structural failures hid in geometry, not drama. By the second hour after suspension, the site had normalized around the override. Crews adapted because plants always adapted. Cones moved, routes relabeled, spotters assigned, risk reframed as workflow. At 9:11 a.m., Chavez called her from a personal number she had from prior shutdowns. Donna, I shouldn't be on this call long, he said. Wind rushed in his mic, They ran one tote halfway, then backed off because Brent wanted photo proof of clear lane. No full crossing yet. Any new noise? Yeah. Low groan near center when wheels hit the seam plate. Did you report it? I did. Brent said, steel talks. Keep it moving. Donna closed her eyes once, then reopened them on the catwalk line. Chavez, keep people out from underneath. That matters more than arguing with him. I'm trying. Spotter's getting pressure to stand down. Don't stand down. He exhaled. Copy. At 10:02 a.m., she saw two maintenance planners at the fence gate carrying printed permits to the unit clerk. One sheet flashed in the wind long enough for her to catch the classification code. Deferred cosmetic, not structural urgent. Brent had started rewriting the paper trail while the steel still stood. The dread shifted shape in her chest then. From immediate mechanical fear to a colder recognition that non-physical failures were already cascading through systems. Wrong codes, wrong dashboards, wrong audit packet. Collapse could happen later. Exposure had started now. She called Helena Ruiz in Central Engineering. Helena? Donna Barrett? Field update from perimeter. Ops appears to be operating under local risk acceptance and altered work order coding. Helena did not waste a syllable. Send me any visual proof. I am issuing a second advisory to site director with do not operate in subject line. Thank you. Donna, Helena added, voice flattening with controlled anger. Your first record was technically complete. Keep your timeline clean. Donna forwarded two zoomed photos of tote staging and lane status at 10:05. Within 4 minutes, Helena replied with a PDF copy of her escalation email, including distribution to compliance and legal. Outcome logged, not ignored. That gave Donna one narrow strand of confidence. At least one upstream channel was now on record before impact. Near 11:30 a.m., heat built over concrete and turned solvent odors sweeter and more pronounced around Bay C drain grates. Donna had moved twice along the perimeter to keep line of sight between pipe racks. She bought water from a vending machine in the contractor shelter and came back to the same fence post as if anchoring herself to witness location made events less slippery. At 11:47, Malik called. 3 crossings completed with half-loaded totes, he said. His voice was clipped, fatigued. Brent calls it validation. Donna stared at the catwalk. Half-load does not validate a cracked member. It hides threshold. I told him exactly that. What changed below? They reopened personnel lane under center span. Needed access to pump seals. Donna's hand tightened around the phone. Who's down there? 2 operators, 1 contractor team rotating in and out. Get them out. I'm trying. Brent told control we're wasting man-hours on ghost hazards. She looked at her watch. 12:18 p.m. I'm calling control again. This time Pierce sounded strained. Donna, I can't discuss internal decisions. You don't need to discuss. You need to record. Final warning call, timestamp 12:19. C3CW17 has active crack mechanism under repeated dynamic loading. Personnel below span remain at unacceptable risk. A longer pause. Logged. At 12:52 p.m., clouds moved in from the west and flattened the light. The unit looked colorless, railings and columns reduced to gray plains. Donna could see the tote queue clearly now. 1 full 900-kilogram intermediate bulk container strapped on a low steel dolly. 2 handlers at the push bar, 1 spotter ahead, and Brent himself near the entry point with a radio in one hand and rolled permit in the other. Rick stood several feet behind him. Posture collapsed inward. helmet chin strap loose, eyes fixed on the deck seam. Donna called Malik. "Tell me that's a hold." "It's the first full load run," he said. "He wants it done before 1 o'clock metrics call." "Where are people below?" "Not fully clear. One operator at C-14 still in lane. I'm heading there now." "Move him out." "I will." At 1:06 p.m., Donna climbed onto a low concrete barrier beside the fence to keep visual through a gap between vertical pipes. She had no badge, no radio, no authority left on site, only a phone, a notebook, and the weight of prediction turning into a clock. Wind shifted and carried pump noise, steel resonance, and shouted commands in fragments. "Steady, steady. Wheel straight. Keep pace, don't stop." Brent's voice cut through on open channel from a nearby speaker mounted on the fence line. "Move now, we are behind." The tote wheels touched the approach plate. 8 seconds later, Donna heard the sound she had been waiting for and dreading. A low-frequency chatter that sat between rattle and growl, not loud, but wrong. The tone of metal cycling near tolerance. The handlers kept pushing. The spotter glanced down through grating, then forward again. 10 seconds. Midspan. At 14 seconds, the gusset gave a sharp report. A rifle crack popped that cut through pump hum and made 3 heads snap toward the same point. 19 seconds later, the support angle tore. The failure ran fast and directional. A zipper rip along the corroded route, where section loss had already mapped the path. Grating dropped on one side. Rail posts twisted and the platform rotated hard toward Bay C with a scream of steel against bolted connections. The tote lurched. Straps skated across bent rail, then broke free as the dolly tipped. Gravity took over. The container fell 15 feet, clipped a handrail, slammed conduit on the way down, and hit concrete with a hollow detonation that sounded more like compressed drum failure than an explosion. The shell split at one corner seam and released a white solvent sheet that atomized on impact into a dense mist, hugging the lane before rising in rolling veils. Sheared vapor lines above whipped and vented, adding forceful jets that turned the cloud into a moving wall. "Emergency shutdown! Shut down now!" Someone screamed on Channel 1. Sirens began as a single tone and multiplied across units, overlapping until speech became fragments. Red beacons strobed through mist. Fire monitors at Bay C pivoted and opened, arcing water into the lane in heavy fans that hammered concrete and pushed solvent toward trench drains. One operator near C-14 went down from the shock wave of dropping steel and scrambled back on hands and knees as another dragged him clear by the shoulder straps. A third worker, caught near the spray edge, stumbled with both arms up to shield his face, while a responder pulled him toward decon. Donna jumped off the barrier and ran along the outside fence toward the south gate, dialing emergency command with her thumb. "This is Donna Barrett, external witness at Unit 3 perimeter," she shouted when the line opened. "Catwalk C 3W17 failed. Tote rupture in Bay C. Solvent release in process lane. Personnel down. At least 3 injured active ESD and monitor flow. Copy Unit 3 structural collapse and chemical release," dispatch answered. "Stay outside perimeter." Inside the fence, Brent stood frozen at the entry platform for 2 full beats, radio hanging at his side, face drained of color under the clean white hard hat. Then he started yelling conflicting orders into Channel 1, words colliding with sirens and alarm tones. Rick leaned against a column and slid to a crouch, hands over his helmet, staring at the void where the catwalk section had been. Water, mist, and alarm light turned the bay into a shifting gray-red blur. Steel fragments lay canted across cable trays. One torn rail section swung from a remaining bolt and struck a column in repeating metallic blows. Donna stopped at the gate line because there was nowhere useful she could go without access and PPE, and because responders were already moving in with practice speed. SCBA teams, medic cart, spill crew with booms and absorbent socks. She forced herself to keep watching, cataloging sequence while her pulse hammered in her throat. First tear, then drop, then rupture, then release, then automatic protections. Cause and effect, each link exactly where the mechanism had predicted. At 1:11 p.m., as sirens still rolled and monitors flooded Bay C, Pierce's voice came through a loudspeaker relay, shaken but intelligible. All personnel, maintain emergency routes. Unit 3 remains in full shutdown state. Report headcount to zone marshals immediately. Donna opened her notebook against the fence mesh and wrote the time with a hand that would not quite steady. 13:07 wheels on span. 13:07:08. Chatter. 13:07:14. Crack pop. 13:07:19. Tear and drop. She underlined the last line once, hard enough to crease the page. While behind it, the unit screamed, sprayed, and finally began to go quiet enough for triage commands to be heard. At 1:11 p.m., as sirens still rolled and monitors flooded Bay C, Donna kept her notebook braced against the fence and added one more line under the second-by-second sequence. First medical team entered lane at 13:09. First foam cart, staged at 13:10. First confirmed full ESD status at 13:11. The act of writing steadied her breathing. Inside the gate, zone marshals were waving crews toward muster points with both arms, counting helmets, recounting and calling names into radios that kept getting stepped on by alarms. A security supervisor jogged up to the perimeter and shouted through the mesh. "Barrett, Incident Command wants witness timeline now. You can enter under escort only. Suspension or not, emergency protocol outranked HR paperwork." Donna nodded once, showed her personal gas monitor, and followed him through the south gate after he clipped a red visitor tag onto her vest. Bay C looked like a machine that had been forced to stop mid-motion. One side of the catwalk hung jagged and low, bolted on the east end and torn free on the west. The missing span had opened a 15-foot gap above a lane now buried in hose lines, absorbent booms, and reflective runoff. Water from the fire monitors pushed diluted solvent toward temporary drain covers where spill crew members knelt to seal edges with clay. The tote shell lay folded at one corner like torn sheet metal, frame twisted, placard half-washed clean. Donna's first instinct was to move toward the failed support. Then she checked herself and waited for permission like any other witness. A responder in SCBA crossed her path and yelled, "3 transports out." No one trapped. That was the first casualty update she had heard, with certainty, and it landed with relief, so sharp it almost hurt. Incident Commander Farah Nadim stood beside the mobile command board under a flashing amber beacon, rain jacket over coveralls, marker in one hand and headset on. She looked at Donna's tag, recognized the name, and spoke without preamble. "I need your chronology from first detection to final radio warning. Keep it technical, keep it tight." Donna opened her notebook and read from timestamps, not memory. 5:45 initial UT confirmations below minimum. 5:52, hold call to control. 6:24, penetrant confirmation. 6:51, engineering contact. 7:22, badge removal. 8:24 and 12:19. External warning calls logged. 13:07, full load movement. 19 seconds to structural tear. Farah wrote each time in block letters, then circled 2 items. Who can corroborate call logs? Donna answered. Control operator Pierce, integrity coordinator Malik, and recorder export from channel 1. Farah pointed to a compliance analyst nearby. Lock radio archive and dispatch recordings now. No overwrite. The analyst ran. By 1:26 p.m., triage status was posted on the board. 2 operators with blunt force injuries from the Catwalk drop. 1 contractor with chemical burns during evacuation exposure, all alive, all en route, or admitted. No fatalities. Donna read the list twice to make sure the names matched the faces she knew from shift overlap. Chavez was marked uninjured but under observation for inhalation. Priya was listed accounted for at West Rack. Malik was listed safe in command support. Brent's name appeared under Ops Leadership Present, and next to it, someone had written, Statement Pending. He was 20 feet away, talking to a deputy plant director, still in the same clean, hard hat, now streaked with spray and grime, hands moving fast as he described events. Donna could not hear his words over the pumps winding down, but she knew the shape of the story he would try first. Unforeseeable failure, rapid response, unfortunate timing. Records were going to decide whether that story survived an hour. A structural engineer from Central, Helena Ruiz, arrived at 1:34 p.m. with 2 inspectors and a camera pole. She met Donna at the edge of the hot zone tape and got straight to mechanism. Show me the member path from approach plate to tear origin. Donna traced it in the air and then on a printed plot plan. Wheel entry seam, mid-span flex zone, cracked gusset at west connection, corroded support angle root line, where section had already dropped into the 2-point range. Helena crouched, zoomed the camera on the torn edge, and said quietly, Zipper propagation exactly along reduced section. No mystery here. Then she looked up at command and spoke louder. Preserve this as failure evidence. No cutting, no cleanup at tier face until mapped. A maintenance supervisor started to object about access restoration, and Farah cut him off. Evidence control first, production later. By 2:10 p.m., the first damage envelope estimate went on to the whiteboard in dry erase numbers that looked abstract until Donna translated each one to equipment and time. Structural steel replacement and shoring, $1.9 million preliminary. Electrical and instrument conduit replacement in Bay C Lane, $2.7 million preliminary. Pump C14 and adjacent seal systems. Contamination and rebuild, $1.1 million preliminary. Hazardous cleanup, disposal, and decon labor, $3.4 million preliminary. Lost production per day at Unit 3 normal rates, $470,000. The deputy director asked if those were worst-case numbers. Helena answered with flat precision. These are first-pass conservative values. They will rise after full scope. No one contradicted her. At 2:42 p.m., Compliance Supervisor Jordan Pike walked into command with a laptop and a face that had gone pale in that particular way Donna had seen after audit failures. We have a records issue, he said. Farah motioned him to continue on speaker so legal could hear. Jordan rotated the screen and showed the work order history for W033-7841. Original classification at 558. Structural urgent, entered by Barrett with attachments. Reclassification at 957, cosmetic deferred, priority shifted to next quarter, entered from admin credentials assigned to Brent's office assistant. A note field had been added at 10:02. No immediate integrity concern, monitor coding. Jordan tapped the bottom line. Dashboard exported at 1100 used this downgraded code. That packet was queued for customer audit binder. No explosion accompanied that discovery, no dramatic noise, but the systemic consequence was immediate and heavy. False KPI performance had moved from rumor to logged fact, and every downstream report touched by that code now carried legal risk. Legal counsel arrived on site by 3:18 p.m., and the tone shifted from emergency control to evidence architecture. A litigation hold notice was issued plant-wide before the hour ended. Preserve emails, texts, radio archives, permit edits, access logs, and CCTV from Unit 3 approaches. IT disabled deletion permissions for maintenance and operations folders tied to the event window. HR converted Donna's suspension status to administrative pause pending protected activity review. Then asked her for a supplemental statement in a quiet trailer away from command noise. She gave it with the same discipline she had used all morning, adding physical evidence chain items one by one. UT readings, PT photos, scale sample envelope, time-stamped perimeter calls, engineer advisory, PDF receipt. When Labor Relations asked whether she had personal conflict with Brent, she answered, "No personal conflict. Technical conflict. Remaining wall below minimum with active crack growth." The interviewer stopped typing for a beat, then kept going. By 4:05 p.m., insurance representatives joined by video from headquarters. They asked about immediate cause, mitigations, and maintenance history. Helena gave the mechanical sequence in 5 sentences. Farah gave the response sequence in 4. Then counsel shared the reclassification log, and the insurer's lead adjuster changed posture on camera, shoulders tightening as he scrolled. If structural urgency was knowingly downgraded to cosmetic and operations proceeded against written hold, coverage allocations may be limited under deferred maintenance and misrepresentation clauses, he said. That was careful language, but Donna heard the financial meaning clearly. A portion of the loss would not be reimbursed. The plant had not only dropped steel and solvent, it had punctured its own protection layer. At 5:12 p.m., with daylight thinning behind the pipe rack, Command posted the first formal operational forecast. Unit 3 offline minimum 21 days, pending structural rebuild, electrical recovery, and regulator clearance. Donna read it and knew it was optimistic. The torn span was only the visible wound. Hidden damage in conduit trenches, contaminated equipment, and instrument reliability checks would stretch the outage. She said as much to Malik when he finally reached her near the staging table, face gray with fatigue and dried spray on his sleeves. 3 weeks is a boardroom estimate, she said. Malik gave a tired half nod. Real number will be longer. They just haven't said it out loud yet. 3 days later, after debris mapping, metallurgical lab confirmation, and full shutdown scope review, they said it out loud. The revised outage projection landed at 47 days. Direct equipment repair and environmental cleanup were set at $18.6 million. Contractual penalties for missed delivery windows and customer supply failures were logged at $6.2 million. Total exposure was still climbing because downstream clients were invoking force majeure review clauses and expedited substitution costs. Donna saw the update in the incident review room on Thursday morning, printed in black text on white paper, ordinary font for extraordinary damage. Next to the total sat the injury report. 3 trauma care admissions, all stabilized. 1 worker requiring extended rehab for mobility and chemical exposure recovery. No one in that room treated the absence of fatalities as a victory lap. They treated it as the narrow margin left when luck arrived late. Regulatory outcomes began almost as quickly as cost accounting. Federal and state investigators opened a joint case file, citing potential willful safety violations, retaliatory action against a reporting technician, and record integrity concerns. They requested Donna's original files directly, not through operations, and she provided them through compliance with receipt signatures for each transfer. External contacts from the day of failure resolved one by one into hard artifacts. Pierce's call logs matched her timestamps to the minute. Ramon's checkpoint entry confirmed her objection at badge surrender. Helena's 10:09 escalation email proved engineering prohibition existed before the full load run. Malik's photos confirmed crack growth and dye indications. Distinctive details that had seemed small in the moment. The low-frequency chatter on empty dolly test, the groan at seam plate, the admin code change timestamp, became central in causal reconstruction. Brent Halverson gave 2 recorded statements in the first week. In the first, he described the corrosion as surface-level condition under evaluation. In the second, after confronted logs, he acknowledged authorizing temporary risk acceptance and approving movement to maintain schedule continuity. He denied instructing anyone to falsify records, then could not explain the reclassification path originating from his reporting line during the exact decision window. HR terminated him for cause before the preliminary regulatory conference concluded. The consent process that followed barred him from a supervisory authority in covered industrial operations for a fixed term with reporting obligations. The language was administrative, not cinematic, but the moral equation was plain. He tried to protect a bonus gate by overruling measured limits, and the system eventually billed him in credential, employment, and record. Late on the evening the 47-day estimate was finalized. Donna stood again at the Unit 3 perimeter, now quiet except for reconstruction crews and periodic torch sparks behind shielding curtains. Her badge had been reinstated that afternoon with back pay authorization pending formal letter. She watched workers bolt temporary shoring beneath the gap, where C3 CW17 had failed, and listened to the clipped sounds of competent repair replacing the earlier chaos. Farah walked up beside her and handed over a copy of the interim incident summary. "You kept the chain clean," she said. "That mattered." Donna looked at the numbers one more time. 47 days offline, $18.6 million direct loss, $6.2 million penalties, 3 injured, multiple enforcement tracks, insurance reservations, triggered by misclassification. Then she closed the folder and tucked it under her arm. In her world, reckoning was never dramatic at the end. It was procedural, time-stamped, and exact. And it proved again that steel could be ignored for a shift, but not negotiated with. The next morning at 7:30, Donna sat in Conference Room B with a stainless evidence cart between her and 2 state investigators and the room smelled like burnt coffee, damp rain jackets, and solvent trace that still clung to everyone who had worked Bay C. Farah stood by the whiteboard, legal counsel at her left, compliance at her right, while a digital clock above the door ticked loud enough to irritate people who preferred talking over records. Donna placed each item on the cart one at a time and named it before she let go. The sealed yellow envelope with corrosion scale from the angle root, the vial containing the developer film scrapings from the gusset toe, printed UT contour maps with point IDs, the calibration check photo showing 5.01 millimeters on reference block, and her field notebook open to the page where she had written the second-by-second failure times at the fence. Investigator Liao checked chain of custody labels and asked, "Did this envelope leave your possession after collection?" "No," Donna said. "Collected at 6:31 on C3CW17 underside access, sealed immediately, transferred now." He nodded, signed, and slid the envelope into a secondary bag. Investigator Ames took the notebook with nitrile gloves and read the handwritten entries without comment. Then she looked up. "Your 1219 warning call, was that to control Operator Pierce Nolan?" "Yes." "Did he acknowledge and log?" "He said logged." Ames tapped her laptop. "We have the audio. Timestamp matches." Across the table, Brent sat with his attorney, suit jacket immaculate, in a room full of high-vis fabric and scratched hard hats. He kept his eyes down while the evidence changed hands. When Ames asked for his response to the reclassification edit, he gave the same line he had used before. "I did not instruct falsification. I asked for administrative cleanup during a fluid event." Jordan from compliance rotated his monitor toward the investigators. There was no fluid event at 9:57. The collapse happened at 13:07. The code was changed 3 hours and 10 minutes before structural failure. User credentials were assigned to admin support in Mr. Halverson's line, and the note text mirrored his earlier radio language. Brent's attorney objected to tone. Ames ignored the objection and asked for facts. Jordan produced keyboard logs, screen capture audit trail, and export history for the customer packet queue. The room stayed quiet except for keys and printer rollers. By 9:05, they moved to recorded witness statements in the adjacent control room, where Channel 1 archives played through overhead speakers with static, pump noise, and voices that sounded smaller than they had on the deck. Pierce sat 2 chairs down from Donna and did not embellish anything. "She called at 8:24 and again at 12:19, he said. Exact words included operation against integrity and engineering advisories. I logged both. Ops disposition remained proceed." Liao asked, "Did anyone instruct you to remove those entries?" Pierce's jaw tightened. "I got asked if those lines were necessary. I said yes. They stayed." That answer closed one more open loop. At 10:40, Rick Donnelly came in wearing the same orange vest he had worn on turnaround Monday, now wrinkled and stained at one pocket. He took the oath, sat down, and stared at his hands until Ames asked why he had signed the transfer permit. "Because Brent told me I was delegated," he said. His voice shook once, then steadied. "I told him I wasn't structural MI. He said write one line and keep unit moving." I hesitated. "Donna told me to read engineering hold first. I did not read it before signing. That is on me." Ames leaned forward. "What about the work order recode?" Rick looked at Brent, then back to the investigators. "At 0950, he told me, we are not carrying structural urgent into audit packet." He called admin and dictated, "Cosmetic deferred." I heard him say those words. I should have reported it immediately. I didn't. Brent's attorney objected again. Liao answered without raising his voice. "You can challenge interpretation later. We are establishing sequence now." The last loaded silence from the catwalk finally paid off in plain language. Rick had looked trapped on Monday because he was trapped. On Tuesday, he chose accuracy over self-protection. At 12:15, Helena Ruiz entered with metallurgical lab results. She projected macro photos of the fracture face, heavy section loss at the angle root, chloride-associated pitting, fatigue beach marks radiating from the weld toe crack, then final overload tear along reduced ligament. She circled a zone and said, "This confirms what field observations flagged. The low-frequency chatter and groan reported during test movements were early audible indicators of stiffness loss. The metallic tick Donna documented at rest aligned with crack advance under background vibration from C14 harmonics. This was a progressive structural failure, not sudden unforeseeable breakage." She changed slides. Contributory environment was condensate drip from adjacent elbow and blocked drain path at the angle lip. That detail was in her 637 photo set. No one in the room argued with the physics after that slide. At 2 p.m., HR and Labor Relations convened a protected activity review in Trailer 4. Lena sat across from Donna with red eyes and a thick file, far less neutral than she had been on the catwalk. "I need to read this verbatim," Lena said. "Suspension action dated Monday 7/18 is rescinded in full. Record corrected to retaliatory administrative error. Back pay and benefits uninterrupted. Site access fully restored, effective immediately." She slid a letter across the table and added quieter, "I should have stopped it on deck. I didn't. I'm sorry." Donna read the letter line by line, then signed receipt. "Put one more sentence in the corrective note," she said. "Integrity refusal under written mechanism language is protected and cannot be overruled by production hierarchy." Lena nodded and wrote it in longhand before typing it into the final file. By Wednesday at 11 a.m., the plant director held the formal discipline meeting in the main boardroom. Brent was present with counsel. Farah, legal, compliance, and 2 regulators observed. The director's tone was flat enough to cut steel. "Mr. Halverson, findings show willful override of integrity and engineering holds, retaliatory action against reporting personnel, and involvement in records misclassification during active risk window. Employment is terminated for cause, effective now." He placed a folder on the table. "You are removed from site access today. Regulatory consent terms will govern future supervisory eligibility." Brent tried one last defense. "I made a hard call under schedule pressure." The director answered, "You made multiple calls against measurements. Schedule pressure is not a defense to falsified classification or exposed personnel." Security waited outside the door. Brent stood, collected nothing from the table, and left without speaking again. Thursday morning at 8:20, Donna joined Farah, Helena, Malik, Priya, Chavez, and a rebuilt structures crew at Bay C for pre-commissioning walkdown. The new catwalk segment was galvanized and top-coated, with upgraded corrosion-resistant supports, drainage corrected, and vibration isolators installed at the conduit clamp Priya had flagged. Member IDs were re-stenciled. Independent integrity sign-off now reported to engineering governance, not operations. Helena read the clearance aloud. C 3. CW17 replacement complete. Torque logs verified, NDE clear, load test protocol approved. No occupancy below during proof load. They rolled instrumented water totes across the span at controlled speed, while sensors recorded deflection. No chatter, no groan. Donna watched the gauge trace hold within predicted limits and felt a tension unwind in her shoulders she had carried since dawn Monday. Chavez stood beside her and said, "Steel sounds boring when it's healthy." "That's the goal," Donna said. At noon the same day, she visited medical with Malik to check on the third injured worker, contractor Eli Navarro, who had taken chemical burns during evacuation. Eli sat upright, bandaging visible at his forearm, tired but alert. "Heard you kept calling it in even after they bounced your badge," he said. Donna shook her head once. "I kept a logging mechanism. Response teams got you out." Eli gave a small smile. "Tell them in training that shortcuts don't stay small." "I already did," she said. Friday at 4 p.m., final regulatory notices arrived. Willful violation citations, mandatory corrective actions, and a consent order barring Brent from supervisory roles in covered facilities for the specified term. Insurance issued reservation language exactly as predicted. Deferred maintenance misclassification reduced recovery on structural portions of the claim. Finance posted the running total on the incident board. 47 days outage confirmed, $18.6 million direct repair and cleanup, $6.2 million. Contractual penalties, uninsured share, significant. The dark irony stayed intact and ugly. Brent had pushed to save 36 hours and protected none of it. Before clockout, Donna returned to the fence post where she had written her collapse timeline. The page in her notebook had dried stiff from spray, but the ink was legible. She added the last entries in neat block letters. Evidence transferred, warnings validated, suspension rescinded, injured workers stabilized, catwalk rebuilt, governance changed, incident chronology closed. Then she tore a copy for the training binder and handed the original to Compliance Archive. When she walked back across Unit 3 under clean evening light, the pumps sat silent behind lockout tags and barricades, with only commissioning carts and inspection crews moving through designated lanes. No sirens, no shouting. Just equipment held in controlled pause, while reconstruction scope and evidence control constraints remained in force inside boundaries that matched reality. The principle hadn't been restored by speeches or slogans. It had been restored by measurements, records, and consequences that finally landed on the right name. Physics hadn't won because it was dramatic. It won because it was true, and this time the paperwork said so.